The afternoon sun slanted through the floor-to-ceiling windows of our suburban home, painting long, accusing rectangles across the perfectly staged living room. It was the kind of light photographers dream of, and that's exactly why he was here. His name was Jake, and to me, he was just the photographer. My husband, Mark, had booked the session as an anniversary gift. 20 years, babe, he'd said, his smile not quite reaching the tired eyes that had been scanning his phone more than my face lately. We should capture this, I'd agreed, numbly, feeling more like a relic to be documented than a woman to be celebrated. Jake arrived precisely on time, a quiet man in his late 30s with a weathered camera bag and a calm, observant presence. He wasn't overtly handsome, not in the way Mark was with his gym-toned physique and sharp jawline. Jake's appeal was in his stillness, in the way he moved through our home like a gentle ghost, noticing the light, the angles, the unspoken stories in the clutter we'd hastily tidied away. Make yourself at home, Jake, Mark said, his voice a practiced, hearty baritone. Can I get you a water? Coffee? He was in host mode, the successful software executive charming a vendor. Water would be great, thanks, Jake said, his voice low and even. His eyes met mine for a second, a simple, professional acknowledgement, but there was a depth to his gaze that felt unsettlingly perceptive. He saw me, not just Laura, the 45-year-old wife in the tasteful sweater and jeans, but the woman beneath, the one feeling frayed and invisible. We started with the classic shots on the sofa. Mark's arm was around me, a solid, familiar weight. Get in closer, Laura, Jake instructed softly from behind his camera. Mark, tilt your head toward her just a bit. Yeah, like that. We complied, but the pose felt stiff, a pantomime of intimacy. I could feel the tension in Mark's shoulder, the impatience humming beneath his skin. You know, Jake said, lowering his camera. Sometimes the best shots happen in between the poses. Why don't you two just talk for a minute? Ignore me. An awkward silence descended. Mark chuckled nervously. Talk about what? Remember when we first moved in? I offered, a desperate grasp at a shared memory. We painted this room that awful lime green because it was on sale. Mark's smile was thin. Yeah, a mistake we fixed pretty quick. His phone, sitting on the coffee table, buzzed. His eyes darted to it. A cold trickle of certainty ran down my spine. It was the same silent, vibrating alert he'd been getting for months, always excused as work stuff. Jake's camera shutter clicked, a soft, papery sound in the quiet. He was capturing not our smiles, but the space between us, the way Mark's attention was a physical thing, pulling away from me toward that glowing screen. We moved to the kitchen for some candid baking shots, another of Mark's ideas, though we hadn't baked together in years. Flour dusted the marble countertop. I was pretending to laugh at something Mark said, my hand on his arm, when Jake spoke again. Laura, look out the window. Just think about something that makes you happy. I turned, my facade crumbling for a second. What made me happy? The question felt like a landmine. I thought of my daughter, Chloe, away at college. I thought of the painting studio I'd converted into a home office for Mark when his startup took off. I thought of the slow, lonely erosion of my own dreams. My eyes filled with an unexpected, hot film of tears. I blinked them back rapidly. Click, click, click. The sound was relentless, compassionate, invasive. He was photographing my grief. Mark, oblivious, was scrolling on his phone with his back slightly turned, flour on his fingers. They need the Q3 projections, he muttered, more to himself than to us. The session shifted to individual portraits. Mark's were quick, efficient. He knew his angles, his winning smile. Then it was my turn. Jake guided me to a chair by the window. Just relax, he said. Don't perform, just be. Under his lens, I felt strangely naked and yet profoundly seen. He didn't ask me to smile. He asked me to breathe, to look here, to remember a favorite place. The camera was no longer a machine but an extension of his quiet attention. For 20 minutes, I wasn't Mark's wife, or Chloe's mum, or the former marketing associate who gave up her career. I was just Laura. And for the first time in a long time, that felt like enough. These are going to be powerful, Jake said quietly as he packed his gear an hour later. Mark was already upstairs, taking a call. Thank you, I said, my voice husky. He handed me a business card. The proofs will be in an online gallery in about a week. But Laura, he hesitated, choosing his words with the same care he chose his lenses. A photograph tells a truth. Sometimes it's the truth we want to show. Sometimes it's the truth we are actually living. Be ready for it. A week later, the gallery link arrived. Mark was on another late work dinner. I poured a glass of wine, curled up on the sofa, and clicked the link. The first images were exactly what I expected, us smiling, posed, a perfect couple in a perfect home. But as I scrolled, the narrative changed. I saw the photo of Mark looking at his phone, my hand on his arm, my smile brittle and desperate. I saw the one of me looking out the kitchen window, my profile etched with a sorrow so deep it took my breath away. There was one of Mark's back, turned to me, a wall of checked-out indifference, while I stared at him, love and devastation warring on my face. Jake had not captured our faces. He had captured our fracture. The final image made me gasp aloud. It was an extreme close-up of our intertwined hands on the sofa. My wedding ring was prominent, a glittering band of diamonds. But next to it, on Mark's finger, his plain platinum band was there, and beside it, barely in focus on the cushion, was another ring. A delicate, feminine band with a small emerald. It wasn't mine. I'd never owned an emerald. The shot was framed so the out-of-focus ring sat in a pool of sunlight, a glaring, golden secret in the heart of our home. The world tilted. The wine glass slipped from my hand, shattering on the hardwood floor in a constellation of red and crystal. The truth wasn't a suspicion anymore. It was a high-resolution, beautifully composed fact. Jake, the photographer, had seen what I had refused to. He had documented the evidence of my husband's infidelity with the chilling clarity of a forensic investigator. Numbness gave way to a torrent of rage and pain. I didn't confront Mark that night. Instead, I became a detective in my own life, armed with the certainty Jake's photos had provided. The late dinners, the new passwords, the scent of unfamiliar perfume, it all clicked into a horrifying mosaic. The emerald ring belonged to his assistant, Eleanor, a fact I confirmed with a nauseatingly easy check of his hidden credit card statement, showing a purchase from a jeweler 2 months prior. The confrontation, when it came, was ugly. Denial, then anger, then a cold, smirking admission from Mark. You've been so distant, Laura. So wrapped up in Chloe, in the house. Elena, she sees me. She's passionate about my work, about me. His words were cliches from a bad movie, but they cut with real, serrated edges. He moved out that weekend. The house, once too quiet, was now a cavern of echoing silence. In the wreckage, I kept returning to the online gallery. Jake's photos were my proof, my bizarre, artistic validation. I needed to thank him, but more than that, I needed to understand how a stranger had seen the collapse of my marriage in a 2-hour session. I emailed him, my words shaky and raw. You saw it. How did you see it? He replied a day later, brief and kind. It's my job to see. I'm sorry the truth was so painful. Sometimes the camera is a mirror, and mirrors don't lie. If you need to talk, I'm here. We began to meet, cautiously, platonically. First for coffee, then for walks. He was divorced himself, a single dad to a young son. He understood the landscape of loss. He didn't offer platitudes, he offered silence, and the occasional, perfectly timed question that made me actually think about who I was, not who I'd been trying to be for Mark. Jake encouraged me to pick up my own camera, an old DSLR I'd abandoned. Don't take pictures of what things look like, he said. Take pictures of what they feel like. I started photographing the empty spaces Mark left behind, his side of the closet, his unused coffee mug, the too orderly garage. Then I started photographing things that brought me a flicker of joy, the first crocus in the spring garden, the way light hit my paintbrushes, my own reflection, not with criticism, but with a slowly dawning curiosity. One afternoon, months later, I was in Jake's small studio, showing him my latest photos, a series on texture, peeling paint, weathered wood, the intricate veins of a leaf. He was quiet, looking intently. These are incredible, Laura, he said, his voice full of genuine awe. You have a real eye. It's not technical, it's emotional. It's you. The warmth in his words, the way he looked at me, not as a broken thing to be fixed, but as a whole person, an artist, ignited something in the space between us. The air grew thick and charged. We were standing close, the glow of the computer screen illuminating our faces. Jake, I whispered, the question hanging. I know, he breathed. He reached out, his hand, so steady behind a camera, trembling slightly as he brushed a stray hair from my cheek. From the moment I saw you in that window, trying so hard to be happy, I've seen you. Our first kiss was nothing like the staged, stiff intimacy of my anniversary shoot. It was a collision of loneliness and understanding, a desperate, beautiful claim on a new kind of truth. It was passionate, messy, and real. It felt like coming home to a place I'd never been. But in the quiet that followed, curled together on his studio couch, a profound guilt washed over me. The ashes of my marriage were still warm. Was I just rebounding, replacing one man with another? Or was this something born from the unique, painful empathy of our situation. The guilt deepened when I thought of the title of my own story, the one I'd been living. He was just the photographer. But he captured more than my face. It had the ring of a salacious YouTube tale, a true infidelity story. But whose infidelity was it now? Mark's was blatant, a betrayal of vows. But wasn't I, in Mark's eyes and perhaps in the world's, also being unfaithful? I'm moving on, by finding solace and passion in the arms of the man who had documented my betrayal. Was I committing a different, more complex sin? I pulled away, sitting up. Jake, I'm not ready. This feels too fast. It feels wrong. He sat up, his expression pained but understanding. Because of him, because of me, I said, tears coming. I found myself through your lens. I started healing because of your friendship. If we become this, it changes the story. It makes it seem sordid. It makes me seem like I was just waiting for an excuse. And I wasn't. I loved my husband. The woman in those photos was heartbroken. He took my hands. Laura, the story isn't for anyone else. It's yours. The photos told one truth. The end of something. What happens next is a new truth. We don't have to define it yet. We decided to slow down, to step back. The romantic relationship was paused, but the friendship deepened. He became my guide not into a new romance, but into a new life. I went back to school for photography. I started a small online portrait business, specializing in real moment sessions, a direct result of Jake's influence and my own painful experience. Mark and I finalized the divorce. It was bitter and financial, but the emotional ties were severed. He married Eleanor within a year. I saw their wedding photos online, stiff, overly polished, everyone smiling perfectly at the camera. They told the story they wanted to tell. A year to the day after that fabulous photoshoot, Jake had an exhibition at a local gallery. His theme was the unspoken. I walked through the spacious room, my heart in my throat. There were photos of a child's hands clutching a worn teddy bear outside a courtroom, of an elderly couple sitting in silent, comfortable parallelism on a porch swing, of a bustling city street where every person was isolated in their own bubble of headphones and phone screens. And then, in a corner, I saw it. A single, stunning print. It was me. From that first session, the shot of me looking out the kitchen window, the light catching the unshed tears in my eyes, my expression a universe of quiet sorrow. It was titled The Recognition. I stood before it, seeing myself as the world had seen me, as Jake had seen me, broken, beautiful, truthfully shattered. It wasn't an exploitation of my pain, it was a homage to it. It was the moment I recognized my own reality. Jake came to stand beside me. We hadn't kissed since that day in the studio, though the connection between us was a live wire, humming with unacknowledged potential. You gave me permission to show it, he said quietly. I would never have included it otherwise. It's perfect, I whispered. It's the beginning of everything. He turned to me. And where is everything now? I looked from the photo of my shattered past to the man who had held a mirror to it with such devastating compassion. The guilt was gone, replaced by a hard-won understanding. Our story wasn't a tawdry tale of swapping one partner for another. It was a story of two people who had seen each other's truths, naked and unflinching, and had chosen kindness. It was a story about the lens through which we choose to view our lives, one of deception, or one of painful, beautiful honesty. The